Welcome to the AI for You Cafe. Today we have Christopher Morton. He's the CEO of ELEM. Here he will soon say hello. The title is ELEM, the Virtual Humans Factory. We, as always, start slowly so everybody has the chance to come in. My name is Carmen McWilliams, and I'm the moderator and organizer of the AI for You Cafe. I'm the director of the company Grassroots Arts and partner in the European AI for You project. And this AI for You Cafe is part of the project. Please take notice that the session will be recorded. The recording you will find on the AI for EU YouTube channel if the speaker gives permission afterwards. No confidential information shall be shared in this cafe session. All speakers express their personal views and opinions. This is not the official AI for You project opinion. So I'm shortly introduce again the cafe. For you who may not know, the Web Cafe offers a series of live web sessions which will take place regularly. The cafe is an online forum to gain insights into the European AI scene. Participants get the chance to share knowledge and experiences and meet stakeholders from various areas of AI research and applications. Please feel free to promote the live cafe to your friends. You can always, this is an interactive cafe, you can use on the right side the control panel. So you can ask questions to the presenter afterwards. You can type in the questions. I will read them to the presenter. And please, you can also raise your hand. There is a hand symbol if you find it in the control panel. Then you could even have the audio, the mic. I can give it to you after the presentation. So again, welcome everybody. I'm very happy you're all here. And now I want to also welcome Chris. Hi, Chris, are you there?
I'm here, thank you, Carmen.
Great, great. I introduce you. Specializing in emerging technology ventures and markets, Chris worked across mechanical industries, aero, auto, energy, before turning to health tech. With ELEM, Chris and his co-founder have taken up the challenge to deliver the most powerful and safe environment for medical trials by simulating human physiology on supercomputers. Prior to ELEM, Chris held executive roles at Atos and Sogeti High-Tech, Germany, set up Altair France, founded and led Samtech UK until its acquisition by LMS, which is now Siemens. Chris has an international background, read aeronautical engineering at Imperial College and business studies at Hult IBS. He enjoys sports, finance, and politics, and took a special interest in growth, movement, and mental health. So again, welcome, Chris. I'm very happy and proud to present you here in the AI for You Cafe. So let's see if we can see you. I cannot see you.
I don't know if you can see me or not. You cannot,
No.
I don't know why. Oh, right. Now you can.
Hi, Chris. Now that's much better. Hi, Chris. Good to see you and you're here. So now I give you the moderation role. You can present as you like, and I'm your assistant. So if you need help, just tell me. I'm now giving you the moderator role. Chris has it now. Yes. So now you can try to call up your presentation. Yes, I already see it.
Very good. So hopefully you see my screen. Carmen, do you confirm? Hello?
We have some audio problems. We do not hear you so well. Maybe
I can hear you well.
I put my webcam out. Webcam's out. Let's try again. I hope it comes back.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, super. Now
you very good. All right. Thank you very much. Well, I don't know if I don't know if you can see me or not. I don't know if I should activate my camera or not. What do you want me to do?
I think you should now just talk, and so we get your voice, and I do see you.
Okay, so I mean, if there's a problem, just let me know, and I'll switch off the camera and I'll reactivate it later when we do the Q&A. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. So first of all, thank you very much, Carmen. It really is a pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. And thank you, and thank you, EI4EU as well for having us. I'm delighted to introduce ELEM to you, the virtual humans battery. Right. I need to make sure that I can click. If not, it's not going to work. Okay. Okay, here I am. So just a few words quickly about ELEM. I think it's always interesting to understand how you come up with creating a company like ELEM. So it actually in our case goes back to 1996. So Guillaume on the left hand side, Mariano in the middle, and myself on the top right actually coincided in Barcelona in 1996. You see the football team of the time down here. And we were all working in numerical modeling. Guillaume and Mariano are both physicists and were doing their PhD. And as Carmen said, I'm an aeronautical engineer, and I was actually working in numerical optimization, classical methods, and then we went on to doing genetics. And I moved on just as a neural network started to appear. So it goes back a long way. In 2005, Mariano and Guillaume joined the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, and that's where they started to work on multidisciplinary computational mechanics and developing the technology that we have today in ELEM. Interestingly, in 2013, we did wonder if we had enough to start a company, and for a number of reasons, we decided to put this off. And eventually, in 2018, in July, actually, ELEM was incorporated. We're about 8 people in the company now, and we're about to release our first product, which is still an early release, but fully integrated on virtual heart modeling and simulation. So ELEM develops virtual human models and supercomputer simulation platforms to emulate diseases or treatments for the biomedical industry. Over the years, we have worked in cardiac and cardiovascular aspect, in respiratory, in the spine as well, and the idea is was to try to build more and more models of this. And this is when the company was then created. I want to define the term virtual humans just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So bear with me, I'm going to read, but I think it's important. So to us, to ELEM, virtual humans are patient avatars, and they replicate the way cells, tissues, or human organs work, and actually can be used to give information about how treatment will affect our vital functions. So the interesting thing is really that capability of showing, how parts of our body operate, not only when we're healthy, but also when we're diseased. And then, as I said, to treat. So effectively, virtual humans are surrogates, in virtual patient trials to give information to clinicians when they have to treat, and of course, in the development of new treatment and in medical innovation. A few words, because I think it's relevant. So I mentioned 2005 and the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. So one of the things that is interesting to highlight here is our origins have been in modeling complexity. And so that means creating predictive models that are really large and that bring together a lot of different aspects of physics, mathematics, chemistry, biology, and of course the coupling to supercomputers. It's non-trivial, but the purpose of the BSc was to push in a way the boundaries of what you could do with computer modeling and simulation, thanks to supercomputers. So this is what we have used as a development environment. So Mare Nostrum is a supercomputer in a chapel. It used to be one of the third or fourth most powerful computers in Europe. I think it's down in the middle 10 or 20s now. But what was fantastic is that it was born and placed in this chapel, which is fantastic. Unfortunately, we're moving to a new facility, or the BSc is moving to a new facility, and the computer is becoming so big that it will not fit in the chapel anymore. So that's a bit sad. But as far as we're concerned, I mentioned about modeling complexity. The second aspect when you handle complexity, or when you model complexity, is to be able to handle it. So to give you an order of magnitude, in the past few years, we have probably spent about 700 million hours of computational time to actually test and validate the various physics and components that you have in our technology. So it has taken a good number of years and a lot of time to get the most out of both the simulation tools, but also the computer system itself. So a step back, just to place or to talk about computer modeling and simulation, because it's a little bit different to AI, as most of you I'm sure already know. So computer and modeling and simulation really has transformed every industry around us in the past 30, 40 years. Everything we touch is conceived, studied, analyzed, improved, optimized using computer modeling and simulation. So that goes from obviously the cars that we drive around, whether it's the structural part of it, the efficiency of the engine, or the aerodynamics, but also planes, wind turbines, whatever. One thing that surprised me a few years ago was when we started to do mobile phone testing. So when you drop your mobile phone, what happens to it? And later, a company like ARM, who make chips for mobile phone, they simulate using computer modeling and simulation the activation of the processor when you start to do things on your screen. The thing with us is we take this to a slightly different scale, and we do also simulation on what is unexpected. And I wanted to show this picture because I think it's beautiful. It was done using our technology, but in New Jersey, and it's a whale. And it's basically an analysis of the whale and the turbulence caused by the whale when it's swimming. So we really do a lot of things with computer modeling and simulation. And I'd say we do a lot of things, but until recently, not quite everything. And this is where we come in. So the human body, because of what I mentioned earlier, the complexity. Now, the fact that it's physiology, so it's physics, it's flows, it's structures or tissues, electricity, and everything else, chemistry as well, makes it really, really complex. So it was a bit out of reach because we didn't have the computer power and we didn't have the systems to be able to do that. And I believe this has changed. So I'm just going to play a short film for you now. Just to give you, a little peripheral vision about what we want to do.
Imagine a virtual human, not made of flesh and bone, one made of bits and bytes. Not just any human, but a virtual version of you, accurate at every scale, from the way your heart beats down to the letters of your DNA code. Virtual hearts already beat within supercomputers, where we can test the effect of different drugs or pacemakers, but also more fundamentally, to understand the way an individual's heart works. Using supercomputer simulations based on scans of your lungs, we can predict with high precision where particles will flow, and then design devices that can deposit drugs exactly where your body needs them. Within a supercomputer, many virtual versions of you can explore small changes in your lifestyle and how they affect your health, aging, and quality of life. Virtual humans, helping you to figure out the very best that you can be.
So I think this is always, I love it. I find it really inspirational. So that's what virtual humans is about, is pushing the boundaries and getting all the going all the way to making us better. Why do we need virtual humans? Hello?
To say it's great video. It's me, Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you. So why do we need virtual humans in medical innovation? So I thought I'd show you this picture because I don't know, maybe not everybody is familiar with this, but every time that we develop a new treatment or a new device or whatever it may be, there's a process, and we have to use surrogates. We can't just try and open somebody up for the first time and see what happens, or we can't just give drugs to people and expect that they're going to do the right thing. So we've been, medicine has been evolving over the centuries with evidence, and this evidence comes from observation and also doing testing. So surrogates are nothing new. The first level is what you see on the right hand side here are effectively lab tests. So in working on cells, seeing what happens. Can you activate them? What happens to them? Do they contract? Do they react? Do they react to drugs? Do they react to electrical stimulation for the heart? This is what we look for. So that's the first level. And then you have animal testing. Animal testing is something I'm sure all of you are familiar with, and you have loads of different stages in animal testing. So you start with usually small rodents, so mice, until you get to mammals, and that can be non-human primates, like monkeys or pigs, dogs, you name it. And then the next level, still, in testing, in surrogates, are actually real people. So they, the companies will look for individuals to come forward and become testers. Now, when I look at this picture, what I find scary and amusing at the same time is that actually I don't feel I don't recognize myself in any of them. I don't think I look like a mouse. I mean, some people could say I look like a monkey, but that's what it is. And even this man here, I don't think that I look the same. But everything is focused and biased towards these surrogates. And I really believe that in the 21st century, we can do better. We can do better. So the reason, I think we have also to look at the reasons why we're doing all these tests. And effectively, safety and efficacy of treatment is the biggest concern for everybody. I mean, for yourself, if you're a patient at the receiving end, obviously you don't want things to damage your health. If you're a regulator, you don't want treatments to get to market that will actually injure or even kill patients. And if you're a business developing treatments, you certainly don't want to have that liability on your head. And let alone doctors. Doctors are here to save lives. They wouldn't be really happy if they had to take risk and kill every other patient that they have to face. So that process has been created to try to safeguard us from these risks and uncertainties. But we've got to the point now where actually it's hindering innovation. And not only that, it's leaving people behind. So what I mean by hindering innovation, I just want to give you a couple of stats. According to the NIH, there are some cancer treatments, for example, that are tested in the mouse, and they have as little as 8% positive indication before you get to human trials. So those models aren't really suitable. I mentioned the pig. You can observe a lot of things in the pig, but they're here to have bigger hearts so that you can see what happens when you put a pacemaker in a pig. But patients are very, very different. So that's an important aspect, that the current models aren't really fit for purpose. And when I say leaves people behind, is that this whole process is based on a statistical and probabilistic distribution. So if you don't have enough of a kind to test, you won't be able to have a treatment for them. So that is why lately so many unique or congenital diseases or things that happen to children in cardiac, for example, there aren't any companies willing to develop treatments because there is not a suitable way to test the treatments they're developing. So it is a very big problem. So effectively and hopefully, with our virtual humans, by harnessing really the power of supercomputers and combining it to the state of the art of patient modeling, we can deliver these insight, we can deliver this new evidence so that medicine can evolve, and we can make sure that treatments also improve, and so do outcomes for patients. So this is really our goal here at the end of the day, is creating a safe environment to test like never before so that we can bring out better treatments for patients. We're a small company, we're a startup. I'll come to that in a moment. So, we would love to do everything at the same time, but you rarely can. So we're focusing on an application first, which is cardiovascular. So we're focusing on heart failure and cardiac treatments. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about how virtual heart works. On the left-hand side, you see some medical images. That and physiological information is our starting point. So from there, we basically create a three-dimensional model, a three-dimensional anatomy of the heart. And then on this anatomy, we're going to prescribe all the properties, all the behaviors, if you like, of the human organ. So, we attribute the properties of the cells. So the myocyte, react to calcium concentration or, potassium, sodium, different ions. And that is what is going to govern how it retracts. Well, luckily this has been studied in labs and transformed into a mathematical equation. So we adapt these equations so that they can be part of the model. The cardiac tissue is a muscle, so you have fibers. That's how it works. So again, the properties of those fibers and of the tissue is embedded into the model, and so on and so forth, until we can actually have an organ that effectively beats in the computer. And that's what we do. That's what our virtual humans are. And we use these to do all sorts of analysis. So, you study the blood flow, you study the contraction, so the electrical part of it, you study the fibers, how they impact, the shape of the heart when it beats, and we test basically, devices or drugs to see what impact they have, and before that, of course, what happens when the organ is diseased. So I will zoom into this a little bit, just to give you a highlight of how significant this is. The first thing is about discovery. So, we always say with numerical methods, with simulation, you get to see things for the first time. And we say for the first time because sometimes there is no other way to do this. And what you see in front of you here is a great example of this. This cannot exist in nature, in real life. So on the left-hand side, you have a female heart, and on the right-hand side, you have a male heart. But what we can do with simulation is actually use the same anatomy. So we've used exactly the same heart, only we've made it male or female by changing the properties of that heart. If you don't know, women have different hearts to men. When the woman is pregnant, she needs to have a heart that dilates, becomes bigger to compensate for the extra the extra bodily needs, the extra body, the baby, and also the extra effort that the woman has to do. So the heart has to dilate, and then it has to come back to its original shape. This is done very cleverly by nature by giving a different structure to the fiber, different orientation to the fibers than between men and women. Now, the interesting thing is doctors have always known this, but they could never actually see it. They could never test it because, as I said, you can never have the same heart that is either going to be male or female in reality. So discovery is about this. It's also about being able to, make the heartbeat in the computer and cut it open and see what happens once it's cut. Again, those are things you can't do with real hearts. So that deep dimension is extremely important for medical insights. Another aspect is if you talk to doctors, they will tell you, I know what a healthy heart looks like. I know how it beats. But suddenly when somebody has a disease, I don't really know. And so one of the important things of what we do here is actually replicating not only the healthy heart, but also making it diseased, as can happen in real life, to see what happens. When you have a heart problem, your heart doesn't stop from one day to the next. Like everything, you scar part of the tissue, and then your heart is going to find a way to compensate. So it will beat differently. And that is one thing that is unique to each and every one of us. And so, of course, again, something that can't be seen before it happens. So here we can scar the heart. What you see, the red stain on the bottom right-hand side here is typically somebody has had a heart attack and their tissue doesn't conduct as well as before, and so you get typically a ventricular tachycardia in this case, which is that tissue starts to beat in desynchrony, if you like, to the rest of the heart. And what you see, the two little pictures at the bottom, so the left-hand side shows you that signal, so it goes up and down and it never stops. That shows the tachycardia, so that irregular heartbeat in parallel to the other one. And what you see on the small right-hand side picture is what happens when you administer a cardiac drug to the model, to the virtual patient. So amiodarone is typically an antiarrhythmic drug, so it helps to regulate the rhythm. But what you can see in that picture is that the green curve is a low dosage of amiodarone, and the purple one is a higher dosage. And what you can see is that if you give the wrong treatment, instead of actually getting rid of the arrhythmia, it increases it. Okay, so again, being able to test this in the computer means that you don't have to have a real person to take this test. So it's extremely advantageous to be able to do this. Here is another case. It's a case of a pacemaker. So you have different types, but this one is based on a system called Micra, which is a pacemaker that goes inside the ventricle. And when they start to develop things like this, great, it's pacing. They've done this for a while, but this is different. You put something inside. How is it going to affect the blood flow? Is it going to cause areas of stagnation, which will be, where basically clots or thrombus will form? Now, if you have a clot in your heart, whether it goes in your lung or in your brain, you're not going to be in a good shape after that. Okay, so being able to test this is unique. what you see on the lower right-hand side, that picture here, shows how the electrical impulse from the pacemaker is helping to propagate that contraction wave throughout the heart, so that the heart can deliver the cardiac output, so eject enough blood to basically feed our entire body. Again, these are things that are tested in humans and also in animals, but here you can actually make it your own and decide to give it the heart that you want it to be. So it can be a lot closer to reality than using a patient or using a surrogate who has not been calibrated to your patient need. And what you see at the top here is another interesting thing. The conduction system of the heart is very efficient, the natural one. But when you put a pacemaker, instead of hitting the copper wire, if you like, in your heart, you basically you give the discharge to the wall. That means that it's a lot less efficient, and by doing this, you subject the heart to further strain, further stress. That has two effects. To start with, you don't really know how much it's going to damage it, but also the more you need to electrify the tissue, so the less efficient you are, the shorter the life of the battery in your device. So again, comfort as well as giving insights to improve the designs of the devices. And then you have another thing, which is speed. So we've all been stuck at home for a while now, some worse than others. It probably was towards the end of March. One of our friend doctors, doctor friend, called us and said, look, people are starting to talk about chloroquine as a potential cure for COVID. Can you do anything about it? And so we thought, okay, well, we'll try. And literally within a little more than a week, we could demonstrate that if you increase the heart rate, which is, typically if you have respiratory problems like COVID patients do, your heart rate increases to compensate. So if you increase that to about 150, in this case, beat per minute, and you increase the density or the concentration of chloroquine in the plasma, you actually can get to heart failure. And heart failure in particular to cardiac arrest. Now, I don't know if you followed the news in April, but 12 patients died in a trial for a US company, and this is exactly what happened to them. So, to actually get this type of indication within a matter of days is unheard of in any other means of testing. So, sorry, I was going to go to this one. We ELEM is on a journey, and we're working on the heart today. We have a few other things in the pipe. We've looked at other systems already, but clearly our ambition is to be able to deliver, a virtual version of you at some point in the future, and hopefully, the sooner the better. It's very exciting. So again, I want to have a quick summary as to why do in silico testing. So in silico is the term that is used as opposed to in vitro, which means in the lab, and in vivo, which means either in the animal or in humans. So the first thing is when you build your models, and this is actually similar to AI. When you bring in data to your model, you're basically capturing knowledge, and you're putting all that knowledge into your computer models. And what is amazing is that this knowledge is not exclusively medical. You're combining different sectors of expertise to do that. So you have the specialist in physics, the specialist in engineering, the specialist in computing, and the medical specialist, all bringing their piece, and that's what we integrate into our tools. So the other thing, as I mentioned, is to create this new evidence, to be able to see things for the first time. There's, in that respect, one of the nice things with modeling and simulation that AI doesn't have as much at the moment, or classical AI, is that you can look at physical model, you can see very tangible things. It's not only about, looking at information from data sets. So I think that's extremely useful as well. Another thing is, the capacity to test more and more and more, and in all fairness, a lot quicker, and also much cheaper, and even if not always so much more cheaply, at least without taking some of the risks. But beyond this, there is this ethical component and the unbiased nature of the models. Today, especially in cardiac, if you're mid-50s, early 60s, white, male, overweight, and on top of that, if by any chance you've been smoking or drinking for a while, you're safe. Everything has been designed for you. If you're a woman, if you're a child, if you're from an ethnic minority, or from a different place on earth where you don't have the same testing capability and you haven't had the same history of testing, any treatment that you get is going to be second best for you. So I think we have to really go beyond this now. And by the way, I will mention women again, because heart failure has really been increasing quite rapidly the past couple of decades amongst the women population. And again, pacemakers, valves, whatever, are tested primarily on men. So it's not acceptable. And finally, it's about patient reach and outcomes for patients. We should go towards more personalized treatment. We have to take into account the particular of the individual when we do this. And as I said, reach is also about people who've got very peculiar congenital disorders or special conditions that are extremely rare, and that today cannot be considered by businesses. And by the way, I'm not blaming them. It is not viable. It is not viable for a business to develop a device or a treatment for one person. But with these technology, with in silico, I believe we can do a lot more than what we're doing today. So one of the things that I really wanted to highlight, and I think it's also the purpose of this forum, virtual humans, it really is a new dimension to medicine. But it's not only what we do. It's not only predictive modeling like what we do at ELEM. Classical artificial intelligence, is also used already, for example, in drug testing. It's used to help diagnostics. So, it's an important part of this too. You have technologies like organ on a chip that are also coming to enhance, the world of medicine. And then you have everything that has to do also with virtual reality and augmented reality. Medicine is evolving thanks to that. What I wanted to say here is that, to start with, as I mentioned, it's a new dimension that has several legs. But I think what is really exciting is that even if these technologies have sort of been developed independently, we will reach the maximum benefit from them, and we will really give that new dimension to medicine and medical treatments when they start to merge together. And for us, for example, just to look at how we would interact with AI, our models can be used to generate synthetic data that can inform the AI models. That's in one direction. The other way, AI is fantastic for screening down the number of variables or parameters. So for us to be able to have AI engine that will help us define or reduce, if you like, the size of the experiments that we have to do in silico with predictive modeling is extremely powerful. Okay, and obviously when you get to really, I would say that the clinical sides, I've mentioned that we focused on biomedical industries at the moment, but when you get closer to the patient and to what is happening in the clinic, to be able to combine these two things with the capacity or the capability to see in 3D and to sense as well is phenomenal. So, that's one of my really also key messages today, is really to see that all of these different ways of doing in silico will deliver the maximum impact when we start to integrate them together, which is often the case. Now, something which is important, whatever I've been saying to you today, obviously I'm passionate about what I do. It's very exciting. I love it. But it's of relative value. What I find really exciting, is that we're not alone. So the FDA in particular is really pushing for what I call the rise of the virtual humans, and they've got the means to make that happen. This is an extract from one of their publications, or one of the presentations they made a while back. And you can see on the left-hand side that the left pie chart is sort of where we are today. So you can see that lab testing, animal testing, and human testing, are the three main pillars of the regulatory framework and approval. And you have a tiny bit of, computer testing as part of this. Their picture of the future not only sees that pie becoming bigger, which means that, the amount of testing that we're going to do is going to increase. It does not only show how, computer modeling, which typically I think here refers to AI type solutions, is becoming, an important chunk of that. We also see a reduction, especially in animal and human testing, which I think is good. But we also see, as I said, that cheese, that portion of it that is really dedicated to virtual patients, and I think that's very exciting. One thing I really want to mention this, because we're working, whether it's AI, whether it's predictive modeling, we're working in a field which is extremely complex. The amount of knowledge that we need to bring together is enormous. The amount of data that we need to have access to is enormous. And I think, we're very lucky at ELEM, but I know it's the case in a lot of other places too. Now, we're surrounded by a fantastic network of partners, whether they're institutions or individuals. We couldn't do what we do without them. So I really wanted to make a mention of that. So, we have loads of doctors that we work with. We have hospitals, we have medical association. We're working with the regulators. We have R&D partners. We even have cloud providers. Oracle has been helping us with a cloud deployment as well. And of course, all the people who fund our project. So big thank to them as well. So this is pretty much it. That's how I want to conclude. Our aim is really medical testing and clinical trials that work for everyone. Our message is that the future is now, is not in 10 years time. We can actually start to use this now, and this is very exciting. And a couple of more things. We are fundraising, so if anybody is interested in supporting ELEM, by all means, do reach out to us. But it's not only funding that we're after. I think it's an exciting time. We're going to need very talented individuals to make this happen. So if anybody has an interest in this, by all means, do reach out. And with this, I'll finish. Carmen, thank you very much, and thank you very much to everyone. And I'm very happy to take any questions now.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm putting myself the video on. Let's see if it works. And maybe let's see. Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to be the first again to ask you a question, because it's very exciting what you do, I must say. It's like, it's incredible. And it's nearly like magic, because you're like, wow, you're really creating a new virtual human being. And wow, what I want to know is about your company. Are you basically focusing on research, or do you really have already customers? I mean, where do you see yourself?
So we're early stage, but when we decided, I showed you the 2013, when we were thinking about setting up a company, and we did in 2018. So one of the important thing, when you want to set up a company is to have an idea of where you're going to go in terms of market. So we are pre-revenues at the moment, but we have clients that we work with. So we're working with companies to really make sure that we create a product that is going to bring value to them. So absolutely, yes, we have, and actually as we speak, something which is quite exciting. It's an opportunity that we hadn't really, we didn't think it would happen so quickly, but we currently running a case for a small another startup that is developing a new pacemaker, and with lockdown they did not have access to their animals for the testing part. So they could basically sit back and do nothing or take a punt, which they did, and they asked us, what we could do for them. So it's very exciting. Yeah. So we are, we have 2005, so 15 years. We've been working on the product. I should have mentioned that, but the team that has developed the technology and that is continuing to work with us on this is 35, 40 women and men strong. It's a big team, and it's 15 years of research. So we did this now because we feel we're at the point where it starts to make sense from a commercial point of view.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm letting the participants also speak, as I have many questions here, and let's go. First question from Raffaello Di Nardo. ELEM is only for drug discovery or also for surgery or neuroscience?
So very good question. So at the moment, so it's not for discovery. For drug discovery, typically you will have, that's where AI is really used. So it's for testing, inpatient testing, okay, and it's for medical devices and drugs. The focus, as I said, is on cardiac, so it's on the heart. And to the question, is it for surgical applications? Not at this stage.
Okay. So next question, Francesco Kinsler. What is the typical computing power is needed to simulate an organ? For example, for building a heart model from magnetic resonance images and simulating it.
Okay, so two questions in one. Right. So let me answer the easy one. So if you want to simulate a heartbeat, the way we do it, so using predictive modeling, we run these in a matter of, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, an hour. But depending on the complexity of the case we're running, we may be using 500-600 cores or 1,000 or 2,000 cores. So these are actually quite computationally intensive applications. But luckily, this is where it really matters to have been able to develop our solution on a supercomputer, because it's been designed to scale, and actually to scale up to 100,000 cores. To the second part of the question, the time it takes for the segmentation, so what we call the segmentations, which is to go from the scans to the 3D model. It used to take a very long time. So it used to take weeks to do that. And now, depending on the complexity of when I say complexity, is the other way around. Depending on how bad the image is, you're going to have to spend more time. For the more advanced models that we have ex vivo models, so that patients or people who donated their organ to science, and that's because you can subject these to a lot longer scanning procedure. So a live patient, you can't have somebody more than an hour and a half in the scanner. A dead patient, a dead organ but kept alive, you can have for 24, 48 hours. So we have high definition models from that. that source.
Okay, thank you. And now comes Maria Manon. She asked, wow, that's just a fabulous presentation. I didn't know this technology, but I'm familiar with several problematics connected, for example, with animal experiments. Now comes the question, how is ELEM spreading into academia and getting known by students and future physicians?
So, I mean, that's, yes. So two things. You know, we as I said, we're building the first solution. So two things that we say. A lot of the funding we've had, you know, in our incubation period, so as part of the research facility, has been done with EU funding, and that means that there are a number of centers across Europe, but also in the US, Israel, and Japan, actually, where we have deployed our technology. So it is available in some research centers, you know, for R&D purposes. We haven't reached the point yet, so soon we will, I hope, reach the point where we will be able to, you know, share that technology with medical schools of sort, whether it's in biology department or medical department, I don't know. And you know, one of the things that we want to make sure is that we diffuse that as much as possible. So we'll do that. And the interesting thing too is I've presented some human models, but there's nothing that stops us from also doing animal models as well. So, and the last part, I'm not sure I got. I don't know if I answered everything or not.
I think yes. It was basically how you disseminate, no? How do other people hear about you? I think you answered. So now Peter van der Linden comes. Hi Peter, your question is, thank you for this very interesting presentation. Would you share with us some notion of the business model of the company?
Well, I can. I mean, you know, it's a new space. So whatever I tell you, you know, we're in the process of testing. But effectively, it's a piece of software, and you have two ways to sell and distribute a software. Either you sell, you know, licenses, or you have a subscription model. In our case, I think so. What we're doing is going for a subscription type model. So people will have to subscribe to the solution, and then they will pay on demand, a little bit like what you do online. You know, you have your I don't know, you Zoom your Trello license for 1 to 3 users. It's, you know, in that case it's free, and then it increases per user or per usage. So it's going to be similar. For us, one of the key aspects is, as I mentioned, we need high performance computers to do that. So it is easier to deploy in clouds, in commercial clouds, whether it's, you know, Amazon, Oracle, Uber, Microsoft, than to expect all our clients to have their own HPC capability.
Okay, thank you. And now comes Alessandro Stafiotti. How can we guarantee the correctness of the models? If a drug is tried on a virtual human, how can we know that the effects will be the same on a real human? That's the question.
That's a you know, very pertinent question. So I think there are two ways to answer this. The first one is obviously, you know, we do testing, so we do calibration and we do clinical testing to make sure that what our models, you know, predict, you know, is measured or matched against, you know, real patient. So you need to do that. Okay, but we don't need to do it 5,000 times. We need to do it, you know, enough for the models and for the pathologies we're considering. The second part of the answer to this is, you know, if I told you that we could model, you know, the heart or any other physiological system as accurately as it is in real life, I would be telling a lie and I would be pulling your leg. But that's not what this is about. You know, the first thing is about macroscopic behavior. So we do macroscale, you know, we do organ level. So what we need to make sure is that the information we get at the organ level is valid. Okay. When we do comorbidities, these sort of things, so typically what you were saying, when you take a drug, you have other aspects. So we can actually combine aspects, and we look at the chemistry of what happens to that. So this we can measure, we can check, and we can validate. But it's like every new technology, and this is where, when I mentioned that I started my career in numerical, in mathematical modeling and numerical methods 30 years ago, I have actually worked with the automotive, with aerospace, with defense. We've pushed simulation, and I can promise you that back in the days, the level of accuracy, even what you could model, was quite simple. But nonetheless, it still gave information that was not available without it. And sometimes, you have it. If you want an exact answer, I would tell you, just don't. Okay, but I'll come back to this in a second. If what you want is an indication or trend, absolutely, this is for the things that we will put on the market. We will be able to guarantee that the trends are going to be the right ones. And depending on what you want to do with it, again, the ability to question yourself, you can only have once you start to see things. So, when you start with a new technology, with a new, the new AI models, it doesn't matter whether the result was right or wrong at the time. What mattered is that you had something that could make you think and decide whether it made sense or not. So, I would say, depending on where you're coming from, you will get different aspects. Now, just the detail on the the exact answer. It is, it's. I asked it, actually, one of our advisors, one of our scientific advisors, who is a cardiac surgeon, only a few weeks ago. I said to him, Frances, just if you have to operate on a patient, how do you do it? And he said to me, the first thing I do is go on the internet. So, we tend to see, when I say we, I mean, certainly I talk for myself, the common people, I see medicine as this, godly science where everything is precise, everything is calculated and calibrated. And then you talk to somebody who does it and tells you, well, first, I just research and I see if people have had similar problems, and then I try to make the best fit. So, we're not that far off. So I think that's what is important. That's what is important.
Yes, thank you. This is, I just said there are so many great questions coming here. I can only take one more because we are always in this super time frame. So I take one more, and so here, from a regulatory point of view, Marcelo Sousa asks, from the regulatory point of view, the software does it comply with regulation? The question is not completely, for example, privacy by design and default. Does it, the question is difficult to read. From the regulatory point of view, the software complies with regulation, for example, privacy by design and default.
Yes, I understand the question. So I think the privacy aspect, you're talking, or Marcelo is talking about GDPR or similar. So one of the, we do warn our clients, to make sure that any data they put into the platform, into the cloud, is neutralized. Okay, so they shouldn't put data that can be, or they shouldn't put information that should be that would allow them to link the data to an individual. So that way we are implicitly compliant from that angle. The other part of the question is, are we regulated? And I mentioned during my talk the FDA, and I think what is extremely interesting is that there is no regulation today for modeling and simulation in the medical space. We're working together with them. So they are developing new standards. They're actually the FDA is the most advanced compared to the European agency, especially when it comes to devices, which is the starting point for in silico. And they have paired up with ASME. So ASME is again North American Association for Mechanical Engineering, and they have developed a lot of standards for verification and validation of different mechanical and physics systems. So they're working together to adapt and bring out a new standard for modeling and simulation in the medical space. So they have one which is called medical device development tool, which is a new standard, and we're going through some of that at the moment. And I think what will happen is, as more and more people do it, these standards will evolve, and we will get to hopefully, in a few years' time, software as a medical device type certification.
Okay, thank you. Now due to time, I thank you again. This was a great session. I'm totally inspired. So if anybody feels like asking more questions to Chris, I think I can share your email, or you saw it also. So you can send it to me, to Chris directly. And I hope you all enjoyed it like I. And I want to invite you for the next super AI for You session with the title COVID-19 and Contact Tracing Apps. There will be 9 speakers on this hot subject, and it will be on June 23rd. So I'm looking forward to meet you there. So have a nice afternoon. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Garmin. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
That's right. Thank you. Bye-bye.